Okay, so this is going to be a practice in which we really focus on the sort of role of negative emotions within the realm of non-dualistic philosophy and thought. So I've been reading quite a lot recently about the kind of ancient roots of pre-Hatha yoga, so the tantric, the non-dualistic tantra. And I would like to, from this wonderful book, Tantra Illuminated, I'd like to use a couple of pages from that book for today's gateway into kind of our internal landscape and a few things to think about there. So first of all, before I go a little bit deeper into this topic, we're going to just do a seated grounding meditation for a few minutes to step into our practice. So find a comfortable seat. I'm sitting on a block. It kind of helps to have your knees a little bit lower than your hips, and just to prevent that slouching back through the lower back, so that nice long spine grounding from the sit bones and lifting up through the crown. And by all means, you can sit in seiza position on your shins if that works better for you. And whenever you've found your seat, allow your eyes to soften down. Allow your shoulder blades to soften down your back, away from your ears. Invite some softness into your face, into your brow, around your eyes, your cheekbones, your jaw. Feel the grounded, supporting nature of your seat beneath you. Feel the length in your spine, maybe very slightly tucking your chin if you need to, just to get that little bit of extra length in the back of your neck. And we notice our breath in our body. Say hello to your breath. No need to try and change it or alter it. We are simply acknowledging it's there. And of course it's always there. But let's begin to start our journey into our inner landscape, this exploration of our internal landscape with our breath as our companion. Now I'd like you to bring your attention to your head, to your brain, to your mind. And just notice what it feels like to hold your attention somewhere in the center of your head. It's the beginning of your practice, so maybe your mind feels busy. Maybe there's lots of thoughts whirling. And can we notice any underlying emotions that may be sat on our brain today, on our mind today? And if you wish to, you can label these emotions: stress, joy, relaxation, anxiety, sadness, tiredness. Whatever is there, just as soon as you label it, allow it to leave with that label. If you like, it kind of walks out the door. We don't try and hold on to it, we don't try and keep it there. Simply acknowledging whatever's there, good or bad, or neutral. Thoughts, emotions. And maybe we notice there's our to-do lists, what we have to do later, what we should have got done this morning. And again, we let go of our to-do lists, we let go of our shoulds and shouldn'ts. And then we sink down to the heart center. And hold your attention in the center of your chest. How does it feel to hold your attention in the center of your chest? Is it easier or more difficult than the center of your head? Do we notice a different sensation, a different vibration sat there today? And again, maybe some things you can clearly name. Maybe some things are sitting a little bit deeper in your heart, a little bit less revealed. And it's okay, we don't need to name everything. But just acknowledging its vibration, acknowledging that it's there, is a start to opening and unraveling what we're carrying within us at this moment in time, right here, right now, today. Whatever's there, good, bad, neutral, it's all okay. Let it be there. No right or no wrong. And the next time you exhale, allow your awareness to sink down to your gut, to your lower belly. And holding our focus, our awareness here now. Again, how does it feel compared to the upper two centers? Can you notice any subtle differences when you hold your awareness here? And whatever we find, can we let it be? Not pushing it away, not holding on to it either. Simply acknowledging what's there. And then let's acknowledge all together, just below our belly button, the center of our chest and the center of our head. Just for a few moments, keeping our awareness on all three of these centers. Maybe noticing the subtle differences between them. Or maybe that's not apparent yet, and that's okay too. Okay, and then tucking your chin into your chest, begin to blink open your eyes, allow your eyes to readjust. And we're going to move into a little bit of postural work now. So always moving mindfully and slowly between the poses, there's no rush. We're going to start with just opening up our extremities, the energy in the extremities, to really get the flow of chi flooding through moving through our whole body. So we're going to open up the wrists and the toes. So for this, we want to, first of all, we're going to come into a sort of wrist and finger stretch. So bring your toes somewhere beneath you and flip your fingers as far back towards you as you can. In some cases, depending on your wrist anatomy, your fingers might need to be a little bit more turned out, a little bit more turned in. Okay, and then we're going to begin to take a little bit of weight back towards our heels, taking the stretch into the joint of the finger joints, and opening up the backs of the wrists. And then again, just check that your breath's still accompanying you on this journey. Say hello to it. Take it by the hand if you like. And say to it, we've got this. So a popular misunderstanding in our culture, this culture where we're told we must always strive to be happy, it's our right to be happy, to be joyous, to always have the best, the most shiny of everything. It's kind of a misunderstanding that if you're experiencing negative emotions, that it's evidence of something wrong in your life, or that you're somehow out of alignment with reality, that there's something wrong with you, something wrong with your life. Okay, just release the palms and come to sit back on your heels for a moment. Let that energy flood back into your wrists. So, to start us thinking today, whilst it's true that if you give rise to sort of what are considered negative emotional states, it may be a sign that, you know, something is out of kilt in your life. If we sort of classify them as wrong, then we're kind of in danger of putting this guilt or sin even paradigm upon the experience. So a tantrika, or a studier, a follower of tantric philosophy, actually sees every state of mind, every mood and every feeling as a gift from what they would say the goddess NG, but we can really see it as a gift from consciousness itself. Okay, let's begin to just roll the wrists. And we're going to open up the soles of the feet and the toes now, so tucking the toes under. You can take your socks off by all means if you feel you need to. I'm going to open up the other side of the wrist now by taking the front of the hands underneath our armpits. It may help if I turn around here. And we're kind of tucking our fingers up into our armpits. Again, the fingers might be facing back, they might be facing up, but we want to stretch out the other side of the wrists now. And let's just settle down, close our eyes, and this is an intense pose. There's a lot going on. We're stretching out the plantar fascia on the soles of our feet into the toe joints. We're continuing to this strong surge of energy that we're creating in as we create space in the upper body meridians through the wrist release. And maybe there may be an element of you kind of saying to yourself, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? This is so difficult, I can't do it, I don't want to do this, when are we going to move out of it? And just knowing that, there's nothing wrong with having those thoughts. There's no failure in your practice if you're having these thoughts. But it's about learning to be with these thoughts. To not push them away, to let them be there. But without letting them rule you, without letting them overpower you, you kind of dampen the noise, if you like, on them. We turn the sound down very slightly. We don't silence them. And how do we turn down the sound? Well, we step into our present moment awareness through following the sensations as opposed to reacting to the sensations. By becoming curious about them, by feeling the breath in our rib cage against our hands. By softening, we soften the face, we keep the shoulders soft, around the neck spacious and soft. And of course, if this is too much for you, please come up off your heels. But if you can, for 4 or 5 breaths more, let's stay with it. And then releasing your hands slowly, 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 coming off your toes, coming to sit back on your heels, palms facing up. And let's feel, so to every bout of intensity, there comes the other side of the experience, where we feel the release. The two are actually just 2 sides of the same coin. 2 parts, 2 aspects of the same experience, not separate experiences, but 2 experiences that feed into each other and create the whole. Because without the intensity of what came before, we wouldn't feel the sweetness of the release after. And it's by nature that every pole in duality must eventually give way to its opposite. It's the natural law. Okay, and begin to bring a little bit of movement into your fingers. Maybe begin to roll your wrists. And then let's allow ourselves to cross our legs and come down to our hands and to our seat with our legs out in front of us. Okay, so the next pose that we're going to take is going to be caterpillar pose, whereby we'll release the whole back chain of our body. Okay, the posterior chain. So if you are particularly tight in your back body and you find it difficult to get your frontal hip points forward to lean forward, then feel free to take yourself onto some kind of prop just to help with that anterior pelvic tilt. If you have very tight hamstrings, you may want to take some kind of blanket or cushions under the back of your knee just to break up the back line in the back of the legs slightly. You can take your legs a little bit apart. The feet can roll out, roll in. It really doesn't matter. The only alignment that is right is what's right for you in your body today. So we want to target the stretch along the back of our body. Now, depending how you access this pose, you may kind of target the lower back more across the buttocks, more in the hamstrings, and again, only you know where your body needs really working with today. So in yin yoga, we always want to feel an element of stimulation. This isn't restorative yoga. We don't want to feel completely unstimulated. We are stressing and stimulating the tissues. However, we're not doing it in a yang-like way. We're not pushing, we're not striving. We're allowing these long holds to take us deeper into the pose. So we come to about 60-70% tops of our edge. And then we let the hands of gravity gently work us deeper into the pose as time goes on. So coming forward into whatever level of forward fold you'd like, and just making sure that we've not kind of switched on any muscles as a reaction. Of course, it's impossible to completely switch off your muscles, but we don't want to have to use muscle engagement to pull us deeper into the pose. It should be a natural kind of organic unraveling over a striving and a pushing. And then let's close our eyes and once again join hands with our breath, your companion through this journey of your practice. So there's two modes of learning, if you like, about ourselves, about our true nature. And we can learn from states of expansion, or we can learn from states of contraction. And sometimes in this life we are expanding and we are working our way out into the world energetically. But other times we are drawing inwards, more yin-like if you like. We're becoming stiller. There's less activity. And both expansion and contraction, just like yin and yang, are two sides of the same whole. They make the one. There is sort of no right or wrong state to be in. So it's kind of a false mode to think that we need to be constantly expanding, constantly growing. And if we sort of push these contracted states away and refuse to listen to them, then we refuse to listen to what they're teaching us. So no one view is better than the other. And, you know, we can't measure our worth as a human being or as a yogi or as a spiritual practitioner on the basis of how much time we spend in an expanded state and how much in a contracted one. So true expansion into the fullness of your nature, or your divine nature if you like, is really about just relinquishing all such dualistic judgments. If you have to work to expand, if it takes effort to be in this expanded state, then, as I said before, that effort that's needed, if it doesn't come naturally, then you will always revert to its other side and start contracting again. It's the laws of the poles of opposites. So to really expand in our true nature, it must be something unforced, something natural. So in our last minute or so in the pose, if you feel like you need to change your propping, if you need to drop deeper or maybe even come higher up, and really just notice how the pose has evolved. And maybe some of your tissues feel more expanded. They feel like there's a little bit more space there where there wasn't before. Maybe the opposite's true. Maybe in terms of your physicality, the parts are feeling they're starting to go the other way. They're starting to contract. They feel like they're at the end of their expansive state. Again, neither is right nor wrong. We're not passing judgment on that. We are simply acknowledging what's there and listening to it through quiet observation. And then roll up through the spine, wherever you're at. Sit back, lean back onto your hands. And allow yourself to be a little bit more open, a little bit more expansive in your chest. Notice what it feels like to invite the breath fully into your belly, into your chest right now, as we feel the other side of our body, this movement, this flow of chi through the back body. After this gentle tractioning that we've been applying to the tissues of the back body through this forward fold. Just with the weight of gravity tractioning us down, opening us up. Okay, so we're going to come into half saddle now. So for half saddle, this can take quite a bit of propping. For some of you, you will be comfortable taking your heel to the outside of your hip. The target area is going to be across the top of the thigh, across the front of the hips and hip flexor area, and up the side of the belly. Now, for some of you this will be impossible, and you may want to sit on your foot and take a block. Let me show you the other side. Take a block or two underneath the extended leg buttock, and simply coming back on your hands will already offer enough of a stretch across this target area. Remember, we don't want any localized pain in the knee. So other adjustments that we can make with the knee, we can allow the knee to come out more to the side, foot can be under us to the side, and then we can also play about with the relation of our torso to that knee, so whether we turn it away or whether we keep it straight on. Now for some of you, you may be able to lower all the way down onto the floor or onto blocks. If that knee raises, it's not the end of the world. If you feel like you need a prop underneath it to support it, then go ahead and pop one onto there. And as I say, if there's a sort of dull ache, if you like, across the top of the knee, that's fine. But if there's anything localized, stabbing, shooting, sharp pain, then please play about with the pose until we kind of remove that danger to the knee joint. And you can play about with your arms. You can take, so if your right knee's the one that's bent, you can kind of take your right arm over to the left slightly and see how that changes it, over to the right. Or if you're higher up in the pose, we can play about with that arm somewhere overhead. And that's absolutely fine to kind of twist away, whatever works for you. And then we'll ground into the pose, closing our eyes and again observing the vibrations of what are there. So all of our emotions, all of our moods, they really are just vibrations. They're all manifestations of the one, of the source, of this universal energy. of our consciousness. So therefore, if we experience emotions, such as, challenging emotions that we may feel in a yin yoga pose, such as restlessness or slight discomfort, and then in our life, if we're experiencing pain or fear or lust, desire, we've got to acknowledge that these are all vibrations of energy, and that energy it's a manifestation of the source, of the universal energy. So therefore we allow ourselves to bow to these emotions, to thank these emotions even, say thank you. What is it you're trying to teach me? What is it you're showing me? And ultimately, if we keep on trying to suppress these vibrations, the vibrations, they don't go away, they don't stop existing, they will keep on circulating back to us time and time again until we learn to listen to what they have to say, until we acknowledge their teachings. So last minute here. Acknowledging whatever's there, listening to it. Quietly, patiently. And there's our breath sitting with us the whole time, listening along with us. Letting go of any gripping in the groin, around the front of the thigh, in our belly. Softening and yielding as much as is possible into the pose, knowing that after the intensity will come the release. But can we find some sweetness within the intensity itself? Okay, and then if you're all the way down on the floor, allow yourself to come up onto your elbows, to your seated position. Roll off your hip, bring the legs slowly out in front. If you need to massage your knee a little bit, then please do. And let's just pause for a moment. Close down the eyes, feel what's there. Okay, and then let's take the other foot behind us. So maybe this side behaves differently. We do not have to treat each side the same. Our bodies are not symmetrical by any means. So treat this as a separate pose, if you like, on this side. And play about with these props. Do you need to prop under the extended leg buttock? Does that opposite bent knee need to come out to the side? Can it be in close towards the other knee? Can the foot be by your hip, or does it need to be underneath you? And we start to come down and play about. As we go down, we find some gentle but mindful movement when we first come in to the postures, till we find that sweet spot, that spot of stimulation, that point where we go, yes, something's happening here, there's something interesting here, something to explore. Until we settle into, this is where I want to be. And even throughout the course of the pose, it may change slightly where you want to be. You may want to halfway through raise an arm or lower an arm. You may want to shift your body slightly to the left, slightly to the right. Always maintaining that level of stimulation. So if we feel that we've lost it, then we can just make little adjustments to the posture until once again we're like, there it is. There's something happening, there's something interesting to investigate here. Join your breath on the journey once again. And we listen to the vibrations that are arising from the pose. And if they are negative or uncomfortable, or even if it's something such as boredom, a slightly more neutral emotion, we ask it, what do you want to teach me? What do you have to teach me? And again, we contrast this with this sort of more anxiety-ridden approach to our practices, where we're kind of beating ourselves up for doing it right or wrong. There is no right or wrong, there's just experience. Keeping the face soft, the groin soft, the breath soft in the belly, soft in the chest. Being with whatever's there. And it's in our yin yoga practice, interestingly, we can see how sometimes by taking this more passive approach, this more compassionate approach towards the poses, that we kind of learn sometimes how to convert what started as something one would deem as negative into something a little bit more neutral. Sometimes even it can convert into something sweeter, more positive. As all of the wealth of human experience rolls into each other, rolls into one, all these intermingling, overcrossing waves of vibration that make up the human experience. They all need to be there. Last few breaths here. Okay, and then lightly pressing into your elbows if you're down low, enough to bring yourself up to seated onto your hands, Slowly roll out of that hip and release the leg in front again. Give yourself a little bit of a massage here onto the knee. And let's take a moment to take a full rebound here for a couple of moments before we move on to the next pose. So coming down onto our backs and let yourself be in this neutral position into your Shavasana pose. So we can really take a little sort of, just over the midway point of our practice, a little check-in, a little observation. If your mind's wandering, just say hello to your friend, your companion, your breath. And find some comfort in it. Some comfort in the here and now. Almost like a little purring cat sat by your side. Lovely, and then bring your feet to the floor. Let's roll onto our side and gently make our way back up to a seated position. Okay, so we're going to do shoelace pose next. Now, shoelace pose has a lot of variations depending on your hip anatomy. So you may want your feet either side of your hips. The target area really is deep into the buttocks and around the outside of the outer hips, so into the gallbladder meridian. You may want your feet a bit wider. For me, this just doesn't feel good in my body at all, so I prefer to have my hips a little bit more externally rotated and my knee stacked on top of ankle, ankle on top of knee. This may not work for you at all, so you may decide to do a loose shoelace and you will feel it sort of in the buttocks and the outer hip area when you move forward into the pose. Again, you kind of might want to tilt your pelvis forward a little bit. I'm going to take myself onto a blanket. For you it may be a block. And it's really up to you whether you want to, if you want to just come forward in the pose and keep it lower body centric, or if you would like to take a little bit of an upper body meridian work by bringing yourself either into crossed arms on your shoulders or to palms touching and into eagle arms. So another option you might want to take is one hand behind your back and the other hand overhead, either holding a belt behind or your fingers, and then coming forward that way. So choose what feels right for you today. I would like to kind of take a little bit of a stretch across the top of my shoulders, between my shoulder blades and down my arms at the same time here. So I'm going to take these eagle arms. So just to continue with this dialogue about negative emotions, what we need to recognize is that there is an enormous amount of energy locked into negative emotions. So just contemplate that for a moment. There's a huge, all this potential, all this energy locked into negative emotions. So when we manage to rise above self-condemnation and we learn to accept ourselves and what we are feeling, that energy naturally reveals its beneficial quality by pointing us towards a deeper experience of our authentic nature. So say that again. When we rise above self-condemnation and accept ourselves and what we are feeling, good or bad, that energy naturally reveals its beneficial quality by pointing us to a deeper experience of our authentic nature. So therefore, arguably we could drop the term negative emotions altogether. This idea of emotions that we should not be having. You know, the idea that there's emotions that we should or shouldn't be having. It's all just vibrations of the same thing. Of this universal energy of awareness, of consciousness. So there is really no such thing as an emotion that we shouldn't be having. But it's difficult, you know, to cast aside this notion of that one state is better than another and that you should be feeling this way and not that way. Especially as it's so ingrained into us with modern society, with modern media. So to let it all be there, to recognize that all emotions are energy and energy is power to transform. This is a very powerful notion. All emotions are energy and energy is power to transform. Okay, if you're using an arm variation, release your arms now and let's take the last few breaths moving forward. Maybe you can move a bit deeper into the pose, maybe not, maybe you're already at the end range of motion. Just let it be there, whatever's there, let it be. Okay, and then let's walk ourselves up to seated. Release the legs wide for a moment. And just take a little pause. Okay, and we're going to come to the other side, so take a moment to see if this side behaves differently. Do you want your legs tied in a shoelace formation? Do you need to get yourself up high to help your anterior pelvic tilt? Remember, the stretch is going to be felt mainly in the buttock and outer hip of this top leg, but maybe in the bottom leg as well, and that's absolutely fine. Some people may even feel a little bit of a stretch in the inner thigh. And when we release forward, we're releasing through the lower back. And then we're taking our arms, if they were wrapped, into a wrap in the opposite direction. And allowing ourselves to come forward. So the arms, of course, are by no means essential. Only do it if it's serving you today, if it's bringing something to your practice. So we learn to accept what is. We work with what comes. And we try to avoid fearing pain or intense feelings of any kind, or thinking of them as unworldly or ungodly, as they might say in spiritual practices. Because by doing this, we can cut ourselves off from a huge source of life energy. It really takes courage to look clearly at our pain and not push it away, saying, that's not me, but rather to embrace its power. As all emotions are energy, and all energy can empower us. And again, if your arms are in a cross, then releasing your arms and coming forward, feeling what's happening in the arms and the upper body. Maybe you're feeling a surge or a flow or a tingle or a heat as the chi, this energizing, organizing life force of the body, flows through the upper body after you release the tension. Lovely, and then slowly bring yourself back to seated. Release the legs out wide once again. And you can even lean back on your hips, slightly on your hands. Notice what it feels like to breathe fully into your belly, into your chest. As it expands and contracts. Okay, with your legs staying in this wide position, you can stay on a prop or off. You can take props underneath the backs of your knees. Your feet can even be flat on the floor if you like. Let's just come forward for a few moments here into straddle pose. Stretching out the inner thighs and inner groin. Working into the liver and kidney meridians. And again, maybe you need a prop for your hands to rest your head if you're a little bit higher up. Or maybe you can bring a prop for your head if you're a little bit lower down. If you're feeling any discomfort in the front of your groin, roll your legs out or in, bring your feet a little bit wider apart, a little bit closer together. Again, maybe you're releasing through the spine, through the lower back. decompressing the end of your spine, your sacrum. Really allow the breath to journey up and down the spine. And then let's take ourselves onto our hands, tiptoe the hands in. Drawing the legs together by cupping underneath your knees and drawing the feet in. We're going to make our way all the way down to our backs. Maybe you want to take a cushion or blanket onto the backs of your knees. In some cases might feel nice, or a little blanket on the back of your head. You can pop a blanket over you to keep you warm. And we'll come into our final rebound, our final resting pose, Shavasana. Just let our body and mind integrate today's practice. Letting it all be there, this beautiful wealth of experience that manifests as energy vibrations. Now, if you can, I would suggest you stay there for another 5-10 minutes. But if you do need to go back to your day, and just start by bringing your feet to the floor. You can lightly windscreen wipe your legs a little bit to and fro, side to side. Maybe draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock side to side, massaging the back of your pelvis. And then placing the feet back down, roll over onto one side, taking that bottom arm as a little cushion, hugging your knees into your chest. And then pushing yourself back up, we come to our seated position. And again, maybe you can sit here for another few minutes in a seated meditation. And if you are in a seated meditation position, maybe just drawing your awareness one last time to these energetic centers in the center of your head, the center of your heart, and your belly, your lower belly. Your lower, middle and upper dantian. And then honouring all of these wisdom centres and all that is within and around. Have a lovely rest of the day. Namaste.